down to the abyssal lair of the Radiophonic Sea Creatures. Grab 2 rolls of 2-ply and pretend that they're a pair of binoculars because I, Tokyo Choo Choo, am going to be your host today. And with me as always is a man who claims he can see the future by sniffing his own feces. It's Brack. How are you today, Brack?
I'm doing good, and the future, I would say the future is bright, but after seeing that movie, I think I would disagree with that.
If you can literally see the own future by sniffing your feces, it would be brown, right? The future's brown. You know, like the thing, the future's orange, the future is brown. And really, really smelly, and full of corn.
Is it also your view of the movie Bright, or?
Well, one thing, we'll get into that a bit later, but yeah.
We'll get into it later.
How have you been, Brack? How was your Christmas?
It was fine. I didn't play a lot of video games through Christmas, but I did play a lot of video games at New Year's, because I had a few friends over, we had some beers, had some tequila, and we wanted to play some video games. I already downloaded all my the video games with co-op games. I downloaded Injustice and Wipeout and some other racing fighting games. But all that stuff, you have to think while playing it. You know what I mean? It's too hard. It's difficult. Injustice, I was kicking their asses way too easily because I have played that game and they have never played that game. So it's not a fun fight. It's unfair. So we looked at what else was there. We looked at all the PS Plus games they were giving away. We played some Nidhogg, which was fun. We played some Dive Kick, which is also fun, which is a fighting game where you can just jump and dive. Jump and kick, and that's all you can do. It's like jump and kick. It's the only two. You only have 2 buttons in the entire game, and those are it. And it's pretty interesting. We played Sports Friends, which is a game they gave away PS Plus, which have some fun mini games. But most of all, we played this game called Starwhale, which is a game where you play it's a 2D game, and multiple players they have their own Starwhale, Narwhal character. And you just fly around space trying to stab each other in the heart with their narwhal horn. And whenever you're real close to somebody's heart, the game goes in slow motion, so it gets really tense. And it's like bullet time in the Matrix and stuff like that. And it's ridiculous. And then the levels are insane. Some levels have lava in them. Some levels have other stuff that's just dropping and falling down. But it was super super fun to play. We had an insanely good time. And with screaming and hollering and everything while playing it because oh shit, he just got that kill. Oh my god, he's kicking your ass. Holy shit, what's going on? Oh my god, I didn't see that coming. Oh my god, like that. And it's just it's an amazing time with a game that if it was for PS Plus, I would have never ever played it. I would have looked at it twice. Even now, it was a last resort game. We're oh, what should we play? Oh, we haven't tried this one out. And I didn't even remember that I had downloaded it. But I'm so happy I did, because the game is fun as hell.
Yeah, PS Plus is really good for that. If I think back to a few games that I wouldn't have played, like the Swapper, I would never have played that if it wasn't on PS Plus. That was an amazing game. And this year, it was Ultratron, I think, was the game from PS Plus that I played out of complete boredom or something I never expected to ever play, but then I did play it and it was actually really, really good fun.
And Bound, right? You really love Bound.
But I was looking forward to Bound though, because it was kind of like a semi-sequel to Journey, so by members of the same team. So I had that on my radar. Although when it was released, it completely slipped under my radar, and I totally had forgotten about it at that point. And then when it came up PS Plus, it was just oh shit, yeah, I remember this game. I wanted to play this, so that's kind of disqualified, I guess, from from those games that you download from PS Plus and you think I'm never ever going to play that, and then like we just discussed, finally you do actually play it for whatever reason. It's hey, this ain't bad. What's next on your list?
Next on my list, our main topic is going to be Star Wars, like we already talked about. And when I went to see Star Wars, there are going to be spoilers for Star Wars as well, by the way. So just keep that in mind if you're listening to this. But before I went to see after I watched Star Wars, I was I'm still in the theater, and I was about to walk out, and I saw Thor is about to play. I was you know what? I doubt there are many people in there. I can just walk in without buying a ticket. I just walk into the theater, just sit down. And that's what I did. I just like looked around a little bit. Anybody there? Nope. Just walked in. The trailers were already like almost over, so that's good. So I just found an empty seat and just just kept watching the movie. And it's good. It's a really fun movie. It's the best of the Thor movies, easily, easily. It's just and maybe some people are not happy about it because this is the most jokey of all of the Marvel movies. More like a comedy than even Guardians of the Galaxy is. Like it's a straight up comedy, and I thought it was really funny. Like the writing is funny, the characters are funny. Thor is a straight up comedian now, so if you're not a big fan of that, he's not that self-serious dude he was in the first few Thor movies. So yeah, and I just had a blast. It looks amazing, and it's the first time a Marvel soundtrack, like not a soundtrack, the score of a Marvel movie is actually decent. Most of the time sometimes they have decent soundtracks, like they have AC/DC on the soundtrack or whatever Guardians of the Galaxy has. But the score themselves are really like bland. But this time they had like that 80s, that 80s neon type music in there, and it really worked out. I really enjoyed it. Good movie.
All right, that's great. I'm a pretty big Thor fan myself. In fact, I believe I like Thor the most out of us Radiophonic Sea Creatures. I really like the first one. The first Thor movie is one of my favorite Marvel movies. I mean, it's not like right up the top of my list, but I really like that movie much more than you two other guys. And but however, the sequel, Thor 2, is naff. I mean, that was.
Oh, Thor 2 sucked.
Yeah, that was.
Thor 2 is fun.
It's hard to argue with that with that assessment. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to Thor 3. I did have plans to go see it at the cinema, but those plans fell through. So unfortunately, I couldn't see it. So it's going to be a DVD release for me. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing it when I can.
I'm looking forward to seeing it again, actually. So it doesn't happen that much with Marvel movies these days. But this one is just like it's just a blast.
Yeah, that's cool. What's third place on your list, Brack?
Yeah, I also watched like a movie at home. I watched the latest, the first actually, Netflix blockbuster movie, right? Like they have like the full-on big budget Will Smith movie, Bright, and it's kind of hard to talk about because it's okay. Like it's I heard it was really bad, so I had low expectations, and there was some stuff I really liked about it. Like I liked the world building in the beginning. I actually the opening credits had me thinking, like, oh man, this might actually be really good. That really like great opening credits where you see like the graffiti of like the orcish and elvish graffiti, with like the fantasy style graffiti, which really helped with the world building. But after that, the plot is okay. I don't really feel like the relationship between the two characters. I thought Joel Edgerton as the orc was actually really good. Will Smith felt like he was a little bit sleepwalking through it. And overall, I had a decent time with it. I don't think I would watch it again. I'm hoping that if they make a sequel or something to it, that it's better. But yeah, I would really still watch it.
Yeah, my feelings about that movie are similar to yours. Like, in general, I mean, it was nowhere near as bad as people said it was. I mean, I also went in knowing that it was like the worst movie of the year or whatever. So I watched it and it was like, I mean, it's not great, but it certainly isn't the worst movie of the year. And it was quite. The thing about that film is like there were many great things about it, and there were many terrible things about it as well. It was right in the middle. Like you say, the world building was great. As a concept, it's a really, really good concept. And the whole sort of, when it delved into the fantasy stuff in that movie, it was fun as fuck, seeing the different races and stuff and the way they kind of, their relationships with each other. My major problem with the film is the fact that when the action scenes came along, it basically devolved into a typical, like, serious, there are two guys in a gunfight, and they're fighting gangsters or whatever. If there are two dudes in a gunfight, what the fuck does it matter if one of them is an orc and one of them is a police officer? It's, do you know what I mean? A human police officer. It's just like a typical, usual
crime
movie. Yeah, that's the thing, and it doesn't matter.
But
if
it's
one
the problem.
of them is an orc.
It wasn't even that great of a crime movie.
It wasn't.
You know, like crime. The action scenes weren't all that great.
No,
like okay,
except
like the elf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Except when the elves were on screen, when it actually turned into a more fantasy style battle, when the elves arrived, and there was something special about the action scenes, it was much more interesting. When you just had a bunch
the elves
of dudes,
also were like straight up Matrix dudes. They were playing like playing like in the Matrix. They had like those martial arts fight scenes.
Yeah. But it was fun though, right? I mean, when they were on screen, it was I think it was way more fun than when the guys were just with a bunch of pistols and shotguns and stuff and shooting at each other. So I think when that film actually remembered that there were fantasy elements to it, I think it worked mostly okay. I mean, there were other small minor problems, like for example, the elves, they kicked everybody's ass. Like they came and they kicked the gangsters' ass, like a whole horde of gangsters who were basically almost about to kill the main heroes. They kick those gangsters' ass. Yet when they come across the heroes themselves, it's like suddenly the heroes are stronger, and it doesn't quite, those elves are like invincible until they meet the heroes directly, and then they're not invincible anymore. So sometimes that logic doesn't really work and doesn't feel like it's earned. Do you know what I mean? The heroes don't feel like they've earned the ability to defeat the elves in that film. It's just like, hey, these are invincible, and those guys who are about to kill the heroes, they got their ass kicked. But then when the heroes meet the people who kicked the ass of the guys that were about to kill them, they get their ass kicked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually hope for a little bit more fantastical in a way, especially with like the weaponry. Like when you have orcs and whatever the fuck going on out there, you expect them to have like maybe some that influence the weaponry as well. Maybe have like some fun action sequences where I don't know, like the elfish shotgun or some shit. I don't know what it was. Oh, the shotgun is made with like dragon fire or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like something with like that, where it's like the action scenes are fantastical. Like even because the movie is so dark as well. Right, the movie is shot pretty darkly, so you don't even like in some actions you don't even notice you're watching like an elf or an orc. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're like, oh, only see a few flashes of it. Like, oh, this could be Street Kings.
I mean, yeah, Jesus Christ, what? Why? I mean, I can think of a good idea straight off the bat. Why don't they have like a 4-barreled shotgun crossbow type combo type thing? That would have been awesome. Like anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Like some unique weaponry, or like the police officers having to carry like swords or some shit like that, along with instead of like riot batons or something. That would have been cool as fuck. But I think the concept is great. And like you say, if they made a sequel and they could capitalize on the good things of that movie, I think they could make probably a much better and more successful movie. But as it stands, that is a real mixed bag, I think, and definitely well within the realms of like so-so. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But some larger point, like I feel like Netflix doesn't really give a fuck, because if they make like a great movie or they make a mediocre movie, because you're still gonna watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're just looking for something new to watch, and like, oh, this is new. And if it was like in the theater, it would have like negative influences by being mediocre. But because it's on Netflix, you'll end up watching it like anyway. Because they don't care if you loved it or not. They just care if you spent your time watching it.
But I think though they do pay attention to critical respect. Because numbers, perhaps everybody's going to watch the first season of something, but if it's shit and Netflix knows that people didn't like it and it's shit, who's going to tune in for season 2? Do you know what I mean? Like, so they must be aware of the critical reception. If they've got a real dud on their hands, I mean, why would they try making a sequel? Other than if they, they've got a really good idea and they have faith in the actual property itself. So I do think critical reception matters to Netflix. I don't think they're immune to that and just completely concentrating on numbers, because I'm sure they know how it must work.
You're saying that's true, but we all knew that Bright was supposedly terrible, right? All the reviews were terrible.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, we ended up watching it, which probably would happen with the sequel as well.
Yeah, I don't know about.
But for a lot of people.
I don't know. If the sequel came out and people said it was terrible, I don't know. I personally might still watch that because I didn't think the first one was terrible and thought it had potential. I mean, but like, if, for example, I watched a really, really bad TV show and then, the sequel was released and, like, they said it was bad, I probably wouldn't watch it at all.
Just curious. You were the one that watched the entire season of Iron Fist, right?
I did watch the entire season of Iron Fist. Didn't you? Didn't you finish Iron Fist?
No, I skipped like 5 episodes or 6 episodes. I skipped half of it.
Jesus, no, I watched it. But then again, I was entertained by Iron Fist. I didn't have the same reaction to it as you did. I mean, it wasn't great, but I didn't hate it either.
Yeah, we will find out if they actually make a sequel to Bright or make a sequel to Death Note. Especially if they make a sequel to Death Note, then you know they don't give a fuck about critical consensus.
Well,
that's all I'm
that's
saying.
the thing. The critical consensus to Death Note is bad, and I haven't watched Death Note because of that very same reason. So I mean, it does matter. So like I think Bright had enough of an interesting concept to hook me on board, but Death Note didn't. So, and there was such a huge amount of complaining about Death Note. I was just like, I can skip that. But maybe I will watch it one day when I'm really, really bored. I don't know. I tell you what, when I've digested all the seasons of American Horror Story and I'm really, really desperate, then perhaps I'll turn and watch Death Note. So, for me personally, first on my list is Uncharted 4. After quite a long time of promising that I would play it, I finally did play it. I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm about halfway through, according to Rack, who I talked with a little bit about the game. And yeah, what can I say? I don't have much to say about the game. Everybody knows what Uncharted is. It's great. It's fantastic. At the moment, it's on course to be my favorite Uncharted game. Yeah, it's just really, really great, fun game. I like the pacing. I like the way it gives you lots of time to explore and properly get into the mysteries of like the catacombs and stuff, and feels like a proper treasure hunt, rather than, like explore a treasure cavern for about 5 minutes and then get into a 30-minute firefight with like 1,000,000+ dudes. I mean,
there's a lot less action, less fire shootouts in Uncharted 4. I think. Like I'm not sure if you feel that way, but there's a lot, way less shootouts. I think there's a good. I always found that Uncharted had a good mix between exploring and climbing and puzzles and shooting. And I actually always liked the shooting in the Uncharted series, but I think in Uncharted 4 there's less shooting, and I like it still. But I know some people think it's a little bit more boring, which I disagree with. But I really, there's less shooting for sure.
I like that. I like that mix. It's easier to swallow for me with a bit less action of that sort. I think good action scenes are very important and integral to that series. However, it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around, like killing like 100 people. You know what I mean? Like it can be other things, like the more kind of cinematic, like action sequences. Like I haven't reached the Jeep chase yet, which I hear is the highlight of that game. But I hear like things like that. You know what I mean? Like more kind of cinematic set pieces, or even some of the climbing set pieces where things are breaking and falling, and you really got that like feeling in your stomach, like when you have to like a jump from a rope onto a piece of cliff that then disintegrates. That's also qualified as action scenes for me. That's great stuff.
I really enjoyed the more mature story as well, like with Nate and like I really like the storytelling. I know that they are like more confident in their characters, I think, in this game compared to the previous one where there's like more like a fun action rodeo trip, you know what I mean? And this one it's like, okay, these are real people and there's real consequences, like at least for their personal lives, and we go into that for a little bit. And there's like this extended sequence in his home in the beginning, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like it. I think they learned a lot from making The Last of Us as well.
I think so too. Definitely the storytelling has improved in Uncharted 4, and that's much appreciated for me. Also, that led me back to watch Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade with my kids, the Indiana Jones movies, which were fun. It's surprising how well those movies hold up. They're still good fun even now. The other thing on my list, I totally forgot what the other thing on my list was. What was it? Game of Thrones Season 7. Yes, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. Sorry about that. I forgot what the hell I was going to talk about there for a second.
Such a huge fan that you forgot about it.
I
got it. It's good.
But again, I'm not going to go into any spoilers or anything. I'm sure there's going to be a Radiophonic Sea Creatures show dedicated to Game of Thrones at some point. But yeah, loved Season 7 of Game of Thrones. I think it's the best season of Game of Thrones yet. But that said, at some point, Game of Thrones just becomes this untouchably great thing. You know what I mean? The characters are so well established, the story is so interesting, the action scenes are so impressive that it becomes uniformly like excellent. Do you know what I mean? There's never any Game of Thrones episode where you watch it just like that was a piss poor episode and I didn't enjoy that. Like that never happens. So all of Game of Thrones is just great. But yeah, I think I really enjoyed I think 7 the most. And lots of people, I think, complained about the pacing of the 7th season a bit because it's too fast. It doesn't slow down ever. It's like every scene in the season is like pretty much essential to the forward progression of the plot. But I actually quite enjoyed that wham bam, thank you ma'am, like, you know, smacking you in the face with the important scene after important scene. So yeah, loved it.
I had some problems with it.
Oh yeah.
Still a good show though. Yeah, I didn't like the way they handled Littlefinger this season. He felt fairly useless, and they he went out. It's just the way they used that character felt very. I don't know. It didn't feel right to me. Actually, I didn't like their using of Sansa and Arya either. They really didn't feel they have anything to do this season, but they really, we need to catch up with them every once in a while. And they're just saying some stupid lines, and then they go back to somebody else. The entire plot of like I'm not sure which episode, maybe the second to last episode where they go to like beyond the wall was kind of ridiculous. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but it was like kind of a dumb plot line. But yeah.
Well, yes, it was. I mean, it could have been handled a little bit better, that particular plot line, but I love the assembling of the heroes. It's just ultimately those heroes didn't really do anything.
Oh, no, they didn't do shit. I just kind of felt like there's some stupid stuff there. Like they felt like they took a lot of shortcuts. You know what I mean? Where they're like, okay, we know where these characters have to go, but the way to go there, it's kind of muddled for us. We don't know how to do it that well, so we make like a few shortcuts and then we get them there.
I don't have a specific complaint about Littlefinger, but although I do think that there should have been a bit more payoff in this season with what Littlefinger wanted to do, because he spent a long time scheming, and then in this particular season, his all of his sort of scheming mostly amounted to naught. You know, mostly amounted to not much in season 7. So you're like, oh, all this intrigue and all this time of like, you know, oh, how's the end game going to play out for, you know, for Littlefinger? And then in season 7, his plans didn't really come to much fruition, and you know, going forward, he doesn't have much time to complete his plans,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
But his plan felt stupid as well, and then like with Arya and Sansa, I was like, are they really falling for this? Are they that dumb? And like it's their entire like arc through this season was kind of useless. I felt like they felt like they should have sped that up, or at least do something with those characters, but they couldn't. It felt like they had to keep those characters in that same location, but they couldn't like do anything interesting with them.
I liked the Arya Sansa arc from this season. Actually, I disagree with you. I liked it, and in fact, the conclusion of Littlefinger's stuff with them, I enjoyed that too. Like that was a really fantastic scene and very memorable, and I liked it a lot. didn't see it coming entirely either. However, I don't think it's a spoiler, but I do wish that Aya had gone to King's Landing rather than back to Winterfell. I think that would have been a more interesting story arc, but I'm not the writer, so there you go.
I think my problem with it is that it felt like the earlier seasons, the beginning season, especially the beginning, Game of Thrones was like, what if fantasy was like real, you know what I mean? Like they took it in the most realistic way possible.
Yeah.
And now it just feels like another fantasy show, another fantasy story. It went from something that is a play on fantasy almost to just becoming fantasy.
I do not agree with that at all. I think it's playing the perfect balance, because it is ultimate, like you say. It's a fantasy show, but these things have been boiling for a long time. There has to be a payoff to them. There has to be a payoff to all these things that were boiling, right? And I think now, because there's only one season left, now is the time you start paying them off. So it's like Watchmen. Watchmen is like about superheroes, what if superheroes are real, and that type of thing, and generally plays it sort of realistic. But at the end, you have to have that kind of comic book payoff, right? So at the end, they go to Antarctica, and they have the big superhero face-off with the bad guy, and they have all the typical superhero fighting and stuff. And that's amazing. That's the payoff you get. I think Game of Thrones has to have that.
Yeah, but I disagree, because that is a really bad example, because the payoff of Watchmen is that when he tells when he's gonna tell about his evil plan, right?
Yeah.
The payoff is that okay, now how do we stop it? But oh no, there's no way to stop it. I already did it way before we even arrived here. I'm only telling you this because it's already done. That's the payoff in that sequence.
Well, that
Watchmen.
is one of the payoffs in the sequence. The other payoff is having a grandstanding superhero climax as well. That, as an action scene, that is also a payoff as well. Having the fight against the main villain in a very sort of superhero-esque environment, that's a really great comic book payoff. And of course, the twist is amazing in Watchmen as well. It's fantastically done. I think you and I fundamentally disagree on this. I look forward to the final fantasy-esque conclusion of it. I want to see dragons versus the Army of the Dead, and I want to see.
I want to see dragons versus Armies of the Dead as well. I just don't want some characters being dumbed down, or some characters making decisions that feel out of line with who they are, or people having some obvious plot armor, where it's oh, of course this character is not going to die or is not in any danger, even though in that situation there is no way he would have survived.
Yes,
you know what I
mean? Yes. Well, mostly I think the season was fine. I did have one specific moment. Minor spoiler alert for season 7, so I'm just going to throw it out there. The scene where Jon Snow goes into the ice water and seemingly drowns, and then literally comes to the surface and crawls out and survives. That I remember sitting in my chair watching that. I was like, no fucking way. There's no way that just happened. It's yeah. Apparently, Jon Snow has some invincible power. Yeah, so that was pretty dumb. I will hand you that. That definitely had me oh, that's dumb as fuck. But that's literally the only moment for me. A miracle survival of a situation where he could not possibly have survived. But I think that's only a minor spoiler though. Because it's
not a big spoiler.
No, it's not a big spoiler. It's done within a couple seconds. It's he's drowning, he's gonna die. No, he's not. He's all right. They don't even hold you in suspense. All right, and with that, we're gonna move out of the shallows and into the depths. Welcome back to the depths. So today on the depths we are going to be discussing Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Now before we get going on this conversation, we have to throw out major spoiler warnings here. So we are going to go into details for that film. So if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, now is the time that you should probably stop listening and go and watch the film, and then come back and listen to what we have to say about it, because I'm sure whatever we have to say about it is going to be like the most amazing thing you've ever heard. No, it's not. Let's be honest here. It's probably going to be shitty platitudes, but I will say I had like the fucking worst time when I went to see The Last Jedi, because I went to see The Last Jedi with my daughter, and so cinema prices are really expensive in Japan, like crazy. I'm not joking. So because it's so expensive,
That's why I just sneak in. Yeah.
yeah, Brack. Well, after you've bought a ticket, Brack, but you know what I mean. You can't like just sneak in with if you don't have a ticket. Otherwise, you're looking at
I know.
you're looking at Metal Gear Solid levels of espionage. Then that's not worth it. If you literally stand to be arrested, like. So. Because of that reason, because the cinema tickets are so expensive out here, then it makes sense if you're going to go to the cinema and put down such a large amount of money, then you may as well just go see like the best cinema that you can. Do you know what I mean? Because the price is basically negligible. So I decided to go to Tokyo and see it in the cinema in 4D. Basically, you know, so when the seats move like the Star Tours ride in Disneyland. So that's how I was going to see Star Wars: The Last Jedi with my daughter on Christmas Day as well. So it was Christmas Day, set out to go to Tokyo. The bus got caught in a massive fucking traffic jam, and I missed the first hour of the movie because I had to like reserve the tickets. So finally got to the cinema, and I was really stressed out. Almost punched out this Japanese guy who like got in my way in the toilet because I was just so stressed. He came out of the toilet, gave me attitude. I was like, "Get the fuck out of my way!" Literally. But got to the cinema. The staff told me like, we can't let you in because it's like an hour into the showing. And I was like, the fuck? And I couldn't get a refund either. And those tickets were like more than 3,000 yen per ticket. So we're talking, I lost like $70 or something.
That's fucked up.
I couldn't get a fucking refund. And then basically my only option, because, you know, I was with my kid on Christmas Day, was buy a ticket for like the next showing. But the only showing I could get was in the standard cinema style, basically. Not even IMAX, it was like Atmos. So I had to spend like another $40 to get those fucking tickets, and then I got sick by eating too much Burger King. It was a fucking nightmare. But anyway, there you go. Going to see the cinema in Japan, people, it's an expensive business, and that's not even like including the travel costs, because it's at least like $30 to $40 to get to Tokyo in the first place. Oh, fuck me. Merry Christmas, everyone. But anyway, let's talk about The Last Jedi. So, Brack, what did you think in general terms about The Last Jedi?
I actually really liked it. It's actually one of my favorite Star Wars movies so far. I think I might like it as my second favorite Star Wars movie after Empire Strikes Back.
Cool. That's interesting. That's really, really fantastic then. Okay. The Last Jedi is one of the strangest films I think I've ever seen. I had a reaction to it that I've never ever had to any movie ever in my history of cinema viewing, where I watched the film and I came out and I just had this feeling, or just lack of feeling, about anything. As in, I had no idea if the movie I just watched, I had no idea if I liked it or disliked it or thought it was so-so. I just didn't know. It was like, I just came out with a complete blank face, like, I've never had that feeling before with any other movie I've ever watched in my life. Like, just not...
Maybe it was the Burger King.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Perhaps I did eat way too much Burger King. It clogged up my brain. But like, I really just did not know what I thought about that movie coming out of it. I just had no idea. I mean, I knew I didn't hate it, but I think that's about the only thing I knew. However, since then, I've had time to reflect on it, and I have come to the conclusion much like you, Bragg, that I like it. I don't know where it ranks within the the sequence of Star Wars films. I have no idea about that, but I think I'm erring on the more positive side because it's surprising, I think. And I think the one thing I didn't want from this movie was a repeat of stuff that was in other Star Wars movies, and it definitely didn't give you that. So
Oh no, I definitely didn't give you that, which is one of the reasons I'm really I wasn't really looking forward to it. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I really did like The Force Awakens all that much. It felt very much like a retread, and I liked almost all the decisions that they made in The Last Jedi that pissed people off that loved The Force Awakens. Like all the decisions were like, oh, we're gonna talk about them later, but like for example, with Ray's parentage. I love that shit that they subverted that expectation, and I was like, oh yeah, that's great. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, oh, so it's got to be like some other character, like some just Luke's kid or some shit like that. And then it was like the twist that's their parents were just nobodies, that were just, and it's like, oh, that's just such an amazing twist to me. It felt really surprising and really enjoyed that.
I I would agree with that. I think in general I'm a bigger Star Wars fan than you are. I grew up with them. Like watched them every Christmas from zero to, to until I was like in my 20s or something. So and had all the toys and shit when I was a kid. So I think I'm a bigger Star Wars fan than you are. I think I might even be a bigger Star Wars fan than Human Metal, although that's debatable. So yeah, I like Star Wars. I was really looking forward to this. I liked The Force Awakens. Did it retread a lot of what New Hope did? Yes, of course it did. That's in the textbooks. It basically was almost like a one-for-one clone of the fucking Episode 4. But that aside, it was a fun and funny film that I enjoyed. And I've watched it several times, and it just gets nicer every time I see it. It's just a really good reintroduction of Star Wars for a younger generation. I appreciated The Force Awakens for what it was. However, as I said, I did not want to see that again. As we spoke about on like a podcast long ago, like I was saying to you guys, like they did that. They got all that retread stuff out of their system. Like what I think they were going to do with the Last Jedi is, do something new, do something fresh, and try to reinvigorate the Star Wars formula. That's what I said back then, and that's pretty much exactly what they've done here. Ray's parents, yes, that was one of the points I've got down on some of the more contested points. Brack's already, I guess, given his 2 cents about that. I will say that I didn't have a problem with that either, because in general, like, who gives a shit who's Ray's parents? I mean, really? I mean, does it really need to be linked to any of the Star Wars characters? Isn't it more fun that the Jedi's aren't linked to anything? And the people who were complaining about like the dislinking, like so far all the Jedi's and stuff were linked to someone. That's not true. What about Mace Windu? What about Yoda? You know what I mean? Those Jedi's didn't have like fucking any connection to the Skywalker family. Like, why does everything have to be connected in the Star Wars universe to like the Skywalker family or some of the main characters from a different movie? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't get that bitchy either, because in my opinion, the best character in this franchise so far is completely connected to the Skywalker family, which is Kylo Ren, who is just amazing in this movie. I was so impressed by that performance. I thought he was one of the better performances in the last movie, but in this movie especially, he just sells it so well. Like, remember, this is a guy who killed Han Solo, literally one of the most loved pop culture characters of all time, and I still felt for him throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
Like I felt his conflict. I felt like his performance is so good. Like the sequences where he and Ray are just talking through like the Force phone or Force Skype. I don't know how to call it. I really love those sequences, and I don't know. That's the sequences are just so good.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed Kylo Ren. I enjoyed him from The Force Awakens too, as you say, but in this one he became, I think he's just as conflicted, but in a more adult, kind of less emo-ish type way. It was really, really good. And I think we're going to move on to the second one, the second contested point, which is Snoke, I guess. The Lord Commander Snoke. So, like, I think they made a really good idea, that they made a really good move to shift Kylo Ren into the main seat as the main villain, which was a great, great idea, and I was happy they did that. But what did you think about Snoke's early exit and all that shit, Bragg?
I really liked it as well, actually. Like, I didn't really care about Snoke. He's not a good character. Let's be honest. Just like he is, like he's basically like a character. Like, oh, he looks evil. He is evil. That's it. And there's no way you can make any good storytelling with a character that talks the way he does and looks the way he does in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no way to tell a subtle story with somebody like that character. It's just impossible, because he just, like, they really try to go for like evil personified in like character design and in like voice acting, right? It's like, oh, you can go that back and like make that into an interesting character.
No, but one of the main contentious points, which I kind of agree with, the criticism of the film, is that they didn't set up Snoke's backstory at all. Who was he? Who is he? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, I'm like evil dictator number, 576, and shit, I'm dead. But I guess ultimately,
I think it's pretty obvious who he is. He's just the guy who came in like the power vacuum that was left after the Last Jedi.
he's a Sith, right? So he's obviously a powerful Sith, and he has like the Force lightning and the ability to control, like, Rey's lightsaber like flies all over the place under Snoke's control. So he's obviously powerful with the Force, and he even sets up like you say, the Force Skype between Kylo and Rey. So he's obviously powerful with the Force. But it doesn't need a massive backstory, but like a sentence or two. Do you know what I mean? Like a sentence or two to kind of tell you who he was. It's not important who he is, obviously, but I saw this review of the Last Jedi by Kevin Smith, the movie director, and he said something which was quite pertinent and accurate. He was saying basically that this movie is full of like "fuck you, JJ" moments, because the JJ Abrams sort of like set up like many things to go forward, and basically the director of this movie, like Rian Johnson, was just like, nope, fuck that, that's not happening. Like, none of this is happening. Like, it's quite funny to see all the things that JJ set up, just like the next director of the next movie, just like, nope, gonna retcon that.
But it's not a retcon. No. It's not a retcon.
But
it's not a retcon. Retcon would be if like they were acting like the stuff that happened in JJ's movie didn't happen or something. Yeah. But that's not what happened. They just like they used they subverted their expectations. That's what happened. But I really like the way they got rid of Snoke.
I like it too.
I like the way, just in general, like the way that the part where he's about to struck down Rey, and he's like making the actions he does in his viewpoint the same as the action he does with like the lightsabers laying next to Snoke.
Yeah.
Because he is so powerful that they can literally see his intentions. And like, oh, that's like interesting, like a clever way to get rid of a character that's insanely powerful. Too powerful almost.
Yeah, I agree with the execution. Literal execution. I agree with that. I thought that was great, and I didn't. Of course, like everybody, I had no idea it was coming. I mean, at some point you do see it when he's turning lightsaber, like, oh my god, they're gonna kill Snoke. But like, it was a fantastic scene, and it was really surprising. And then the lightsaber fight that followed it, where they were fighting those Imperial Guard, was just like gangbusters. Cool. That was cool as fuck.
And how amazing! Because that's the thing I liked the most about Snoke was his throne room, like with the bright red.
I love that.
Just looks beautiful. And like, and it gives like that intensity to those action sequences, because there's no blood, obviously. No. But there is like that red, because of the red color that's there, the blood is almost implied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's like, and it just feels really, like, I don't know, intense, and I really like just the action sequence in general. It's one of the best action sequences in like Star Wars.
I think so too.
Overall, maybe the best one, at least to fight, the best fight. and it just really worked well for me. It just looked beautiful as well. Like really like the way the movie was shot in general.
Actually, strangely, Brack, that's one of the things that you and I agree on. The throne room sequence, I think, is such a visually stunning sequence because of the set design, the art design of that throne room really kind of, like you say, it kind of ratchets up the tension. But that took a lot of flack, like online, for being like a really bad set design, and I have no fucking clue what they were talking about. That throne room was cool as shit. Like,
really?
yeah.
Like I knew about some other things people had problems with, but I thought that set design was just beautiful. I loved that. That sequence in general, it just looks gorgeous. It looks literally gorgeous.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was really atmospheric, and like the very kind of like Spartan design of it, I really liked it. So, but a lot of people really didn't like that for some reason. Just don't understand. Even Kevin Smith was saying, "What the fuck was up with that throne room? Just like a fucking red backdrop. That's it." Talk about like, threadbare set design. And like, I like that. It was awesome. But yeah, go horses for courses, I guess. But yeah, I enjoyed that kind of repositioning of the power tree, and I like that they shifted Kylo Ren up to be the top bad guy, because he was he was and is the most interesting Star Wars bad guy, I think. I also like General Hux as well. He's kind of Game of Thrones adversary, and I enjoy the conflict that they're obviously going to have in the next movie. That's going to be fun as shit, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is where some of the problems come into, which I agree with. Some of the problems I agree with. There was like some of the joke, especially in the beginning, the opening joke.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like you're on hold. I thought it was funny, but it didn't feel. It felt a little bit out of place, out of like with Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I would agree with it, but I think it was funny enough to get away with. Like it was, and it suits Poe Dameron's character. Although, does it though? Because Poe Dameron is, obviously the jokey character, but actually apart from that, he didn't really have many jokes in this film. He got pretty serious after that, but that side. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with that, I think.
No, I didn't have a big problem with it, but I understand why some people have a problem with it. And I really liked the actual war sequence that followed that, like the bombing run there.
Yeah.
Where like the girl on like the ship trying to like drop those bombs, very intense, worked really well for me, and it's just like a beautiful sequence. Like with just I really like that.
Yeah, I think pretty much all of the action sequences are great. The action sequence at the end where they're doing the speeders across, like the snow. It's not snow, is it? It's salt.
No, it's salt. Yeah.
So, and they got that kind of the salt's being blasted out the way and revealing like the red surface of the planet, and that speeder sequence was just really cool. It reminded me of like very much of like the old school Star Wars action scenes. It was just really cool, and just like you had that kind of feeling like, man, I want one of those like snow speeders, those salt speeders as like a fucking toy or something. It's like great. I really enjoyed that.
I don't want one of the salt speeders because they looked really like, and they made it look like they were like kind of trashy vehicles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were cool as
like
fuck. Though. I mean, who wouldn't want to jump into one of those and like ride them? Like, I just want to drive one of those fucking things. It's awesome.
But you want to talk about Luke? You want to talk about Luke because that's what people. I think that's what most people are angry about, right?
Yeah.
About Luke Skywalker
and the casino scene as well. But I guess we'll get onto the casino scene in a minute. Okay, so let's talk about Luke. Luke the murderer.
It's not like he never murdered before. Let's be honest.
Has he? Did he?
He killed people, right? He probably killed some people. Did he kill people in like?
Yeah, I think he did kill people. Of course he did. But like mostly they were trying to kill him. Like very rarely, I think if ever did Luke try to kill, an unarmed guy. I thought that's that stupid thing. Like, the Jedi uses, the Force for defense, never attack. That is proved false multiple times in Star Wars. Multiple times, but but this case, obviously they had Luke, who is the hero of the original trilogy, straight up think about murdering Kylo Ren in his sleep.
I liked about that because it's not, you show it from like at least like two perspectives. You show it from his perspective, you show it from Kylo's perspective, And from Kylo's perspective, I think it showed totally like he was actually like on his way to murder him. You know what I mean? He was like actually, but from which explains a lot of his character as well. But from Luke's perspective, it's like something at like a little like a moment in his mind where it's like, okay, I should actually kill this dude. Should I kill this dude? And he was completely regretful of it right away, right after it, immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I liked it too, and actually, in the cinema when I watched the movie, I had no problem with that. It made sense to me. It's like, because Luke, people were like always thinking about Luke as this paragon of like justice or something, but there's darkness to that character, definitely. I mean,
But when he was the paragon of like when he was at his most Jedi master in like what was it, Jedi Returns, right?
Return of the Jedi.
Was the most. Sorry?
Return of the Jedi, yeah.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi. He was at his most boring as well, I think. Like the straight-laced Jedi character. It's not that interesting. I like him a lot better in this movie as a character.
But the thing is, like, in Return of the Jedi, you're saying that, but at the same time, there was conflict with him, because he fucking lost his temper, didn't he? Eventually, he lost his temper, and he tried to kill the Emperor, and then he got into that saber fight with Darth Vader, and then he went fucking batshit crazy and wailed on Darth Vader enough to, like, cut Darth Vader's hand off before he managed to gain control of himself. So, like, even in that moment, in Return of the Jedi, there was that flicker of darkness in him. And that prompted the Emperor to say, good, now you've taken your first step on the dark side, now finish him off and, join me. Like, and here's another flicker of darkness. Like, Luke panicked, had an existential panic, and for a second thought about, killing Kylo Ren to prevent, the next resurgence of the dark side. Like, I totally understood that when it happened. Like, because I recognized that dark flicker in his character. There's always been that kind of dark spark there, I think.
Not just that, it's been like how many years between those moments, like between we last see Luke. Like, of course, he's completely different. Like, people are complaining that he's like such a different character now, or like he changed so much.
He's an old man.
But it makes sense that he changed so much. Like, it's kind of doesn't make sense that Han Solo is literally the same. There's literally nothing changed between that character's exactly the same as he was in like Force Awakens and he was in the original trilogy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That character has barely changed. And like Luke makes sense that he changed. Otherwise, there would be no point for him to being so secluded if he was still like the same character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think they did, by and large, they did good stuff with Luke Skywalker. I don't have any problems with his character. In fact,
I don't mind him drinking that milk, which is also something I read people being angry about. Well, that he was milking that space creature and drinking the milk.
That was hilarious.
I thought that too. I thought, that's a really funny moment. It was like the way the space creature looked at Rey. I don't know. It just looked really funny.
Yeah,
and I thought, no, that really worked.
Yeah, it looked really sad that he was being milked. Yeah, I enjoyed that, and also the way that he isn't keen on the Force anymore, and the way that he just wants to be done with it. I appreciated that too. I mean, in general, people just get cranky when they get old, if nothing else. I mean, literally, human nature has proved that old people get really fucking cranky and don't make much sense. So, yeah, I enjoyed what they did. What did you think of his like Force projecting at the end? And in general, the way that the Force allows them to do crazy powers that have never been seen before in the Star Wars universe.
I liked it. I really liked it. I was like, oh, this is like the most baller Jedi trick anybody has ever pulled, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That he Force projected himself there. Only thing I disliked about it is that it's like it ended with him dying. It's like, oh, what's the point of doing this move if it ends with him dying anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, he could. Well, that's the thing. He could have stretched him out. He could have, if doing that after that baller trick, he could have gone on to another great action scene in the next film. Like, he didn't have to die in this movie. I don't know why they made that decision, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Snoke did. No, not Snoke. What's his face? Kylo is saying when they're having the Force Skype, he was like, if you could project yourself this distance, then that would put to so much of a strain on you that it would kill you. I mean,
I didn't have a problem with it in a logical sense.
oh.
I have a problem with it like story-wise, where it's like, why show him surviving this? Show him pulling off that move when it ends with him dying anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can understand that. Also, there is also the point, like, why didn't they have him just physically go there to the planet? I mean, surely that trick he does, where he survives that huge set of laser blast fire, that would have been so awesome if he was actually physically there and just like walked out unscathed. That would have been pretty amazing too. Although at the same time, when I was watching that, and I was like thinking to myself, no way.
No, yeah, it's like I said, like I really liked the move in general. I really liked the entire sequence. It looked beautiful as well. By the way, it was shot in a way where it felt like a old school samurai fight sequence. You know what I mean? Like with a wide shot, and it's the way they're like with a distance away from each other, and like the way they handle the weapons was really exciting. Um, but I just didn't like that they go through that move and they show that he's still alive. He didn't die, and then he dies anyway. You know what I mean? It's like I rather had that he survived and that the next movie he died in a way. You know what I mean? But then like it felt like, oh look, the twist is he's alive, and then oh no, the twist is he's dead. That's the problem I had with it. But I didn't have a problem. That's the only problem I had with it.
Although I think he'll be returning for the next movie. Because
as a Jedi ghost,
he's definitely going to be a Jedi ghost, I think, in the next film. But I think
talking about that,
yeah.
How good was Yoda in this? Let's be honest, Yoda was great in this.
Yeah, well, yes and no. Like I had a weird problem with Yoda. Like Yoda was so fucking jovial in this movie. It's like, when he first met Luke, he's like, "Hey, I'm this jovial idiot creature," and then after Luke discovers he's like this he's like this all powerful Jedi, his attitude changes, and then Yoda's like, becomes like more somber or serious. And he was in the prequels too, and in the original trilogy.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like about one of the things I didn't like about the prequels, where he was so super self-serious. I think in the original trilogy, he's actually still very jovial throughout most of it.
No, he's not. Not after Luke. Not after Luke discovers he's the Jedi. You got that one scene where he's going nuts and stealing Luke's food and stuff, like that. But like, after it's discovered, I mean, you think about how he is in Return of the Jedi and stuff. He's really self-serious, and throughout the training, like, that is why you fail, all that type of stuff. Your weapons, you will not need them. Like, he's very self-serious. So I don't think it fit the character, me personally. I mean, hey, maybe he was just getting fucking weeded out of his mind, like blasted in, like, Ghost Jedi bar or hash bar or something, I don't know, but like, he literally seemed like he was pissed out of his head or stoned or something, Yoda.
I thought it felt in character, but like I said, I haven't seen those original trilogy in a long time. But I really liked the moment he had with him. I really liked his message of like he's talking about shit about the Jedi religion,
Oh, that's cool.
Talking about like the Jedi books. Like, what? Have you read those books? Have you read those books? Those books are boring as fuck. That's like the way he said it.
Yeah.
He didn't say it like that, but I thought it was really funny. And I thought his message to Luke about the pain of being like what do you call it? A mentor is seeing the other people like grow, become better than you, improve on you. I thought that stuff was really very quite touching, and I thought it was like, oh, that's a really great moment with those two characters.
Also, he, as a ghost though, he also brought down lightning from the sky. I mean, Jesus Christ. If all like Jedi ghosts can bring down lightning and stuff, fucking hell. Why?
Yeah,
why didn't like Obi-Wan or like any of the ghosts like start kicking ass with the lightning?
I mean, they are pure force, right? That's what the original trilogy said, that when they die, they become part of the force. So yeah.
Yeah, but
It,
kind of like
it makes sense that they could actually do those moves.
so why the fuck didn't Yoda like come at the end of like the Last Jedi and start frying Kylo Ren's ass? I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's still a cool little thing. Like that's the thing. I think people take these movies like way too serious, and just kind of like sometimes refuse to roll with them as just like the cheesy kind of pulpy shit that they are. That they're just meant to be fun, and this movie was very very fun.
You're saying that they're like, oh my god, space magic didn't work the way I thought space magic worked.
Yeah,
Exactly
that. And I'm saying it here for the sake of just getting these points out there and discussing them. But actually, I'm totally fine with what this movie did because, as I was saying, I think that the Star Wars movies desperately needed a refresh. They desperately needed somewhere new to go and like a widening of things you can expect from them. And I think this movie definitely did that. It refreshed the Star Wars series. And because before that you could always predict kind of what was going to happen, but now who knows what's going to happen in the next movie. It's got a bit Game of Thrones on your ass. Who knows what's going to happen.
But you wanted to talk about one thing you didn't like, right? That was the Space Casino or Space Monte Carlo.
I don't think I did.
More like.
No, that's something that other people like. I didn't particularly have a problem with it. I thought it was sort of prequel-esque, but I didn't really dislike it. It served literally no point in the service of the plot. It was just kind of like a place to have a nice action scene, but I didn't dislike it.
In a way, I agree. I kind of agree. It worked in a way that it was like it made it feel like that plot line was actually gonna have impact. When it ended, the twist was that it didn't have any impact, right?
Yeah.
Like the Star Wars movies are all about like Hail Mary like missions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, this is a mission that like has a 0.0001%, and it works out every time.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the few times where it completely didn't work out at all.
Nothing worked out, basically. Even like Poe Dameron's revolution on the ship didn't work out at all. And throughout the movie, you're thinking, yeah, right on, Poe Dameron, he's got the right idea, but apparently no, he didn't have the right idea. So that was a pretty good swerve as well. And in general, that was the theme of the movie, wasn't it? Failure was the theme of the film.
Failure was definitely one of the two teams. Like the other team is actually like kill the past in a way. Is also a bit of the theme of the movie.
Yes.
Because like all the characters are about like moving on and leaving the past, and that maybe that's one of the reasons that maybe fans are a little bit pissed off, because it's basically saying, oh, your movie's not matter that much anymore. But I don't think that's what it's saying. But maybe some of those people are feeling that way.
I do agree. I think this was a shedding of like certain tropes of the past, especially specifically relating to Skywalker and that. I mean, there was no more significant scene, where Snoke was saying to him, saying to Kylo Ren, like, you're just a boy in a mask, and then he immediately just fucking wrecks his mask. And just like that's like goodbye to the old ethos of Star Wars, I think, like having like these really cool characters who wear really cool masks, and that's all they've got going for them. So I think I really enjoyed that kind of like that ethos and the kind of moving forward, and the casino scene. I mean, the CG on those horse animal things was and it was very prequel-ish. Lots of monsters.
It felt very anime-ish actually to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's...
Yes, I think you're correct. I think you're more or less correct, but I didn't hate it either. Do you know what I mean? I was like, this shouldn't be in the fucking film. I didn't feel like that, like most people did, and it's just I guess a pleasing action sequence on a another part of the galaxy which we haven't really seen before. We've not really seen like a rich planet like that before in the Star Wars universe. So I guess adds a splash of color. I think it could have been trimmed though.
I think it could have been trimmed to be shorter, but I think part of that should still be in there to make that plot line
Work, yeah, because it was important.
Work to make it feel like it's important, even though it's not. Because people are acting like, oh, it wasn't important at all, so it should be cut. But the fact that it wasn't important was kind of the point of it, like the final point of it. You know what I mean?
Yes, like you say, like one of the major themes, as told by Yoda in that scene with Yoda, he's saying like failure is an important part of becoming stronger. Like, and I think like it was failure was one of the main themes. Like Poe Dameron fails, Finn and Rose fail in their casino thing. Like, yeah, pretty much everything goes pretty much tits up. But
even their failure leads to them having getting a coach cracker, who works out. Right? You get Benicio del Toro in there, who I actually like his performance, but I know some people didn't like it that much in the movie.
I liked him fine.
Yeah, with his stutter, and they're like, oh, they finally found this guy. It's still gonna work out anyway, even though they don't get the right code cracker. They got a code cracker, and he fixes it. He does it, and he uses her whatever it's called, amulet or whatever it is, to go through the door, and then everything goes tits up. You know what I mean?
Definitely, and then that code breaker like literally betrays them and gives away their entire plan, which is great. Total fucking yes.
Yeah.
One
that's a really. Mm-hmm.
One thing I didn't agree with, though, one thing that was a shame is that they still didn't use Captain Phasma correctly. Like,
oh, Captain Phasma, but she has never been used correctly. You know what I mean? That's my problem with it.
That's what I mean. Like I was looking forward to Captain Phasma's kind of like progression or use in this movie, but what they did with Captain Phasma in this movie, I think, was a bit like underwhelming. I think they could have at the very least had a bit more of a spectacular fight between her and Finn. But it was kind of a bit of a rote. I'm gonna try to hit you, and you're gonna try to hit me, and then shit, I've fallen down in the fire. Like, like hopefully they'll bring her back for the next movie, and finally she'll get like a proper send off. But because like just falling into a pit of fire, she's got armor. Who knows if she's dead? She might not have died there. It's kind of a little bit open, I think. So she'll probably be like come back looking like the Hound in Game of Thrones or something, and they'll probably pull like a proper curveball, and it'll look like she'll do something great, and then she'll do nothing in the like third movie too.
I kind of hope for the opposite, where you're like, there she's again, she's gonna be useless as always, and then she actually pulls off something that nobody expects her to pull off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. You don't fuck with Brienne of Tarth. So let's talk about the number one, I think, moment that just gets everybody's panties in a twist, and that's Mary Poppins Leia, Superman Leia. Yeah, what's your opinion on that, Brack?
I didn't have a problem with it. Like, it was just another moment for me. It didn't really have like completely like, oh my god, it's so beautiful or whatever, and oh my god, it's so angry that space magic works the way it works. You know?
I didn't have a problem with like that. I just felt it was dumb as fuck from a visual standpoint. I mean, it was so dumb. I mean, it was laughably bad, I think, in its like I don't disagree with the like using the Force like that, because the Force basically, like you say, is space magic. You can do whatever the fuck you want with the Force, but like just the way it was like executed, the kind of iconography of it, and her flying back to the ship, kind of like you say, like Mary Poppins or Superman, was done really poorly. I think that could have done much, much better. And also, it just wasn't needed either. I mean, she got blown out the bridge, right? And then she flew out the bridge and then flew back. There was no point to that, other than to rope-a-dope the audience. And like, you think, oh my god, Leah's going to die. And then she doesn't die. It's like another rug pull moment, I think. But I
think that point wasn't necessary either. Like, you just show her getting not blown up, but like getting still hit, but she survives in another way, a way that makes more sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like maybe she gets hit by like I don't know, like shrapnel or whatever, and she's trapped, and she uses the Force to like push debris off of herself or some shit like that. I don't know. That would have made way more sense. But I don't know. Like that's the other thing that about this movie, there were too many rug pulls, I think. This movie was very, very, very much like, in some ways, stepping back and looking at it, it seems like a bit of a childish like reaction to the Force Awakens reception. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the Force Awakens was, criticized for being too predictable. So everything you think is going to happen, you think that's going to happen. Nope, here comes the rug pull. Here comes the rug pull. Here comes the rug pull. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like specifically designed to go against how you thought it was going to go, and I appreciate that because, as I said, I think the Star Wars needs refreshing, but in a lot of ways, I think it was too much as well. It's sort of almost like on a childish type of level. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like always pulling the rug from you all the time felt a bit too garish in a way. I personally thought with the film.
Maybe. I didn't feel it that way. I didn't have that much of a problem with it.
All right, yeah. Well,
I liked most of the rug pulls. I really enjoyed, except the Leia one. That was the one I really didn't have a. But even then, I didn't have a problem with it. It's just that I didn't care about it.
Also, on a brief note, Leia survives the movie, right, and Luke doesn't. So how's that going to work for Leia going forward? I really hope they don't CG Leia like fucking Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. That's just not going to work, and that's going to make people well unhappy. So what they're going to do with Leia going forward into the next film, I have no idea.
I have no clue either.
Yeah, we'll see.
I really don't know, because it seems like I'm kind of impressed that they were like, from the original trilogy, the character we give the most importance to is Leia. And it's like, oh, that's interesting to do that. Out of all the characters from the original trilogy, you give her like the main star. You know what I mean? Keep her the main character of those.
Yeah, she survived until the third movie. Yeah.
But it's kind of weird that she's the one that didn't survive in real life, which like makes that movie making in general makes it really problematic.
Yeah.
Of how they're gonna do that, because you can't really replace her with another character, because you know that one of the reasons she's alive is because there's gonna be some sort of confrontation or whatever between her and Kylo. I think like some emotional confrontation.
I don't think so anymore. I don't think they're gonna be able to do that. I mean, I don't know. Who knows what you can do with CG?
I don't think they're gonna do that. But I think that was the original point of keeping her alive.
But I think they will be able to go forward, right? So this movie was all about sort of letting go of the past, and at the end, Leia does sort of step aside and let Poe Dameron sort of lead, I guess. So who knows what's going to happen in the third one? But then Leia might just be like, I'm done with this in the next movie. I mean, obviously it's going to have to be done through necessity, probably, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting going forward, either way, to see what happens. But please, whoever's going to step up, I think it's J.J. Abrams. Please don't put Leia like full time in the movie as a CG.
That's one of the reasons I'm not excited for the next one, because I feel like J.J. Abrams is going to be doing like a workman like movie, but it not feeling anything special. I'm actually afraid that he's going to walk back some of the changes that they made in this movie.
Snoke's alive again.
No, that's not the one. I think more about like Rey's parents being important after all.
Well, that's the thing. Rey's parents might still be important. He might be able to do that because there's a way out. Because she was basically told by Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren is her enemy and was attempting to change it to the dark side, right? So there's good out for them to change that back.
But I felt like in that moment in the movie, it's more that Kylo was very completely honest and open. You know what I mean?
So too. And I like you.
Like especially because that moment in general felt like the character Kylo, like the actor, the way they plays it, he's completely like an open book for her at that moment. The way he even says, like, the way he almost begs her to join him. You know what I mean? That like he doesn't like commands her to join him. You know what I mean? The way he does it is like he even says please in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just feels like. I don't know, he feels a bit like, he feels completely open in that sequence. And it feels like, I don't want to hear like, oh no, he lied. Because it feels like dishonor to that character. But maybe it works. I don't know.
I agree with you. I'm fine with Rey's parents being known special. In fact, I think that's more inspiring, because everybody wants to be a Jedi, right? And with that type of logic, anybody can be a Jedi. It's not down to who your parents are. You don't need to be connected to it. The working people, the working class who don't have any connection to anything can sort of come up. And that was kind of what made the original Star Wars partially fun, right? As a guy coming from nowhere, coming from a fucking farming town, being elevated to being one of the greatest warriors in the universe, etc. That's kind of what was great about it in the first place. So, yeah.
But maybe next movie you find out that she's like General Ackbar's like second removed cousin or some shit.
Just on an evolutionary way, it's just, unless she's got like a fish head down her cax.
Mother side, I'm just saying, it's the mother side.
Well, she does have unusually large eyes. But hey, that's our opinion about The Last Jedi. And just to clarify, Brack and I ultimately did like this movie. So.
Oh no, I really liked it a lot. Like I haven't even talked about some of the stuff I still really liked. I really just like the way it looks. It looked amazing. That's like visually, I think it's one of the best Star Wars movies. Like we talked about, like the throne room sequence, gorgeous. The salt planet looked beautiful as well. Like the way that they move through the sand, and you have like the sand, the salt, and you have the salt moving up. You see the red floor underneath it. The way they used it to like as like an impact to add like some violence when something explodes, and you see like the salt underneath there. I really liked the performances by all the characters. I liked Finn as well, even though he had the least to do out of all the characters. I think I liked Poe, I liked Rey. I really liked what they did with Luke and Leia, and just the entire last sequence with Luke. I thought it was gorgeous, like the fight sequence and the way they pulled the rock underneath you just worked completely to me. It's I really enjoyed all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's certainly a film that I'm looking forward to watching again on DVD too. Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah, actually, it's one of the first Star Wars film, at least for the new movies, that I'm really like, oh yeah, I want to watch this again at some point, which I don't feel about the last. Didn't feel about the last two.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it again. But that's our opinion on The Last Jedi. But what's your opinion, oh valued listener? So please sound off in the comment section if you want to join the conversation. And please join us next time you feel a strange twinge in your rectum and later find out that someone stuck a narwhal up there. Until then, happy 2018!